Yo, what's good, everybody? Today I'm talking about Brandon Figueroa breaking the heart of the Brits by upsetting Nick Ball in his own backyard. Very good fight. It was a clash of styles from start to finish. Figueroa's steady volume and body work versus Nick Ball's sharp and higher quality burst of fighting. Now, this was a very good fight. Momentum swung back and forth, and it ultimately ended in a dramatic, yet somehow anticlimactic finish. But getting into the fight, I actually gave the first 3 rounds to Nick Ball. Competitive rounds for sure, but to me, Nick Ball showed his craft by finding awkward angles and varying the speed of his punches to land the cleaner shots. Nick Ball's punches were just more crisp, and he definitely landed the bigger, more eye-catching shots. Figueroa, he mixed up his approach. In the first round, he was fighting on the outside and trying to catch Ball coming in with a rear uppercut to the gut, but he also made it ugly, pushed Ball back and smothered him while maintaining a high output and constantly touching the body. To me, it looked as though as he wanted to impose himself on Nick Ball, as he thought he would win a war of attrition. But moving on to rounds 4 and 5, I gave these rounds to Figueroa. I thought he did a great job constantly on the advance, and he was consistent with his high work rate. He refused to let Nick Ball rest. At the end of round 4, he was actually brutalizing Ball's body, and he had him bloodied in the 5th. Figueroa was also finding success with his counter punching because he would just throw right back without loading up on his shots. With that said, though, these rounds were still very competitive because Nick Ball was still landing flush on Figueroa from time to time, and he did a phenomenal job answering back whenever Figueroa had success, which kept the crowd involved and kept the momentum of the fight from swinging completely in Figueroa's favor. However, in round 6 and 7, I thought Figueroa definitely slowed down a little bit. He still fought with high volume, but the intensity and aggression noticeably decreased. It looked as though the pace of the fight might have got to him. Now, instead of swarming Nick Ball, it looked like he was in a lethargic state. He was just following Nick Ball. And honestly, the way I would describe it is just he looked like a zombie. And Nick Ball was able to capitalize on this and actually looked really good boxing on the back foot. With the pace and pressure slowed down, he was able to pick his shots better and snipe Figueroa from the outside, which is crazy to say because he's 5'2" and Figueroa is 5'8", I believe, and he had a big reach advantage. But Nick Ball was definitely the faster man in these rounds, and his timing was very good, and it made it so that he was able to catch Figueroa idling in the mid-range. He couldn't miss with his jab, his left hook, and his straight right. All of them high quality punches, and he was quicker to the trigger with his counters as well. I thought Nick Ball looked real good boxing in these rounds. Very, very good. Now in round 8, Figueroa looked alive again. He looked a lot more engaged than in the previous rounds. He was fighting with intent, and he was firing off good body shots, and I thought he handily won the round. The next round was a close one. Figueroa started strong. He was letting his hands go. He was awkward. He was swarming Nick Ball, so he himself, being Nick Ball, couldn't get his offense going. But Figueroa, I don't know what happened. He just took his foot off the gas in the last minute of the round and allowed the fight to settle back into mid-range, where Nick Ball once again found much more success. I still edged the round to Figueroa, but the round was definitely close. Round 10 and 11, I gave to Nick Ball. Again, it seemed like Figueroa's energy level just dropped, and he once again was just standing in front of Nick Ball, allowing Ball to utilize his faster hand speed to blitz him with the jab and short combinations. And in round 11, Figueroa had decent volume, but much of his shots were just low quality, and Nick Ball closed very strong with an excellent final minute, repeatedly snapping Figueroa's head back with clean shots from his sharp lead hand. So, after 11 rounds, I had it 7-4 for Nick Ball. But, Figueroa, he made sure he was coming home without belt. And so he marched forward in the final round and slugged it out with Nick Ball, where he landed a big left hook right on the button, and down goes the wrecking ball. Nick Ball got up, right? Figueroa knew what time it was, and he was straight back to work, and he finished the job, and they knew. But truthfully, on live watch, I didn't even know what hit Nick Ball because Figueroa never loads up on shots. He's always throwing in combinations. And so when Nick Ball went down in the middle of Figueroa's flurry, I was a bit taken aback. And I thought whatever it was, it must have been just a flash knockdown, right? Because again, I didn't see Figueroa load up on a shot. But damn, when I saw the replay, that was a perfectly placed punch right on the chin. The fight ending sequence was so shocking, honestly. It was so abrupt and a little bit anticlimactic because the crowd was stunned. The arena seemed like it was dead quiet when Nick Ball went down, and even when the ref waved it off. It was just so hard to believe what was going on. On top of that, right, the officials went into the ring and stopped Team Figueroa's celebrations as if Nick Ball was badly hurt. Like, the whole thing was just so bizarre to me. But nevertheless, big congratulations to Brandon Figueroa, yet another Mexican beating yet another Brit. I thought it was a very good fight. It was defined by contrast, in my opinion. Nick Ball had stretches where he was the cleaner, sharper puncher, especially when he was allowed to box on the back foot and control range. His jab, his lead hand in general, that lead uppercut, that was phenomenal. His shot selection, timing, and counter punching gave Figueroa problems, but Figueroa's volume, consistent body work, and endurance won the fight. I thought Figueroa, perhaps for the first time ever, used his size the right way. He really made this fight physical, and he managed to force Ball back, which I don't think anybody has ever found success consistently doing. Figueroa also wore Ball shots real well. He caught a lot of flush shots, but he was never hurt, and he kept firing back no matter what. Even in the rounds Ball won, right? Figueroa was forcing exchanges, touching the body, and making the fight physically taxing. And I think ultimately, all of that took its toll on Nick Ball. The physicality, the pace, the body work, the sustained volume, the accumulated damage, and that left hook that set Nick Ball down was the result of Brandon Figueroa's tremendous efforts. So once again, congratulations to Brandon Figueroa. And he showed his class in the post-fight interview. He apologized for celebrating, although I thought that was unnecessary, but he truly just didn't want to offend the Brits. And obviously he showed respect to Nick Ball, and overall it was just a classy interview, right? But as for what's next, unification, please. The featherweight division needs to unify. Brandon Figueroa, Bruce Carrington, Rafael Espinoza, and Angelo Leo, they all gotta mix it up. But that's it for me. What did you think of the fight? And who do you want Brandon Figueroa to fight next? And who do you want Nick Ball to fight next? I'll still continue to watch Nick Ball. He's super entertaining and he's actually skilled. And you know what? He's about to smoke. How can you not like Nick Ball? He's rough. He might be dirty at times, but he's super entertaining. But yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day.